go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining me this week. This is going to be kind of a difficult week for me because it's actually a lot of steps that we're going to be going through talking about work in process. This is a very manual process. It includes Excel. So there will be a lot of little minute steps, which I have all documented, but occasionally when I'm just going through, right, I don't actually follow my directions. I just go by my habit. And so I might backtrack a little bit just because of all the steps. Now, as a reminder, we will have this posted on YouTube after the fact, so if you need to go back and watch it, if you're going to try to do some of these things on your own, you can go up on YouTube and see this video. Usually we have it posted within a couple days. And then, of course, if you have any questions, ping the questions in today. And then also, we do have the Facebook group for Fourlane QuickBooks Enterprise users. We're seeing a little bit of activity for a little while and then not seeing as much right now. But if you guys have questions around all things QuickBooks and you want some peer support, that's a great place to do it too. All right. As always, I like to try to bring up the support plans that we have. If you do not want to have to call QuickBooks support and want to instead have a case submitted to Fourlane, right? You don't call Microsoft, you call your IT person. Let Fourlane be your IT person for all things QuickBooks. That is available if you guys, if anybody had to call support this week, basically, right? That's usually what drives somebody calling us about that. They said, I just had to call support and I don't want to do it again. Okay, so I'm Marjorie. I'm going to be leading the call. Today, we're going to be talking about another job costing series, or part of the job costing series here, talking about work in process. I'm going to leave the screen up here for a little bit because I know everybody reads through screens and I have words up, so you can read through while I'm talking through some of this stuff. But there is, this is not just related to job costing, right? Like this is not just construction or trade industry. There are a lot of work in process steps in other industries. Now we do have something slightly different if we're talking about build assemblies, meaning build to stock, and we're tracking WIP. But if you are in the manufacturing business and it's a custom build to order, this process would be very similar. Okay. Now the work in process, why, right? Why we do this what is this? It's an accumulation of costs that have not been recognized yet, right? Or it's an accumulation also of revenues that have not been recognized yet or have been recognized and shouldn't have been. So it's kind of all over the place where, right, it's in accrual-based companies, we should be recognizing our costs and our revenues in the same period. Right? It shouldn't be like I recognize my revenues in January and then the costs on the job get recognized in February. It should be in the same period. Now, what happens a lot of times is that people's jobs that they're working on go cross period. So I work on a job for 6 months. I have to allocate the appropriate amount of costs and revenue to each period over those course of those 6 months. And that's what we're going to be looking at a little bit today. They have the standard ASC 606 if you ever want to look that up. I'm not a tax person. But what I do know is what happened before, right, is basically, especially in private industry, people were left, what I used to tell people back 10 years ago is you need to be consistent, right? So if you recognize your revenues on jobs based on your percentage of cost in a job, like I have 50% of my costs that I'm recognizing, therefore I have to recognize 50% of my revenue, fine. But you have to be consistent. You can't, on some jobs, decide I'm going to recognize a percentage of revenues based on cost, and then another one say I'm going to recognize a percentage of cost based on revenue, right? So you just have to be consistent. Now, after ASC 606 came out, all companies should be consistent across the board in recognizing the same way, which is based on percentage of cost completed. And we'll look at this in a minute. It'll make more sense when you're looking at reports. So the way that we have seen people do this, I hate debits and credits, so sorry. I have seen people do this multiple ways. Okay. I've seen people run their WIP. So what they will do is every time a bill comes in for a job, they will put it in as an asset, right, throughout the month. And then at the end of the month, they will credit that WIP account and debit to COGS or debit to income, depending on, wherever we need to put it. And so I've seen people run it that way. That's not the way that most people run things, right? Because it is not allowing us to see materials versus labor versus, it's not allowing us to see a breakdown of things. Okay. The way that we prefer with people is to run things through the P&L and then back out of the P&L. So you'll see what I talked about in a minute. Oops. All right, so let's just get in product. All right, I'm in a sample file, so you can follow along if you really want to. This is just a sample construction file. Now, inside of QuickBooks Enterprise, this is an enterprise-only feature. Well, there's several enterprise-only features that we're going to be talking about today, but they have this report in here, which you can create in other versions of QuickBooks, but they do for you, which is the job WIP summary report. So this is going to be the basis of what we're working on today, okay? Now, what this report shows us, make these columns smaller, is it's showing us all jobs that have active estimates. So if I go into Customize Report and I look at my filters, you can see what filters. So estimate is active, yes. All jobs, and then posting status is either, because it's including estimates and, bills, checks, invoices, etc. So active estimate, that's one thing to remember. The other thing that what this is showing us is it's showing us all the jobs down the side, right? So we're not looking at the task level. You can get into some of the estimate versus actual. It doesn't have the earned revenue on that at the task level. What I'm looking at here, and I'm going to pick one that has some actual cost in it. I'm saying, okay, on this job, I have estimated cost of $17,500, actual cost of $15,800. Therefore, I'm 90.29% complete. I have estimated revenues of $36,250. I have actual, I'm going to bypass this, actual revenues of $906,250. So this is what I've actually invoiced. My earned revenue is a calculation. It is this $36,250 times 90.29%. And then it shows me over here at the end how much I have over or under billed. Okay, so the difference between my earned revenue and my actual revenue is here. And so at the end of the month, during month-end close, what we should be doing to properly follow, to follow our standards properly is we should be posting this revenue on our P&L if all these costs are also on our P&L, right? And one of the things too with estimate versus actual is that the costs don't show up unless they're hitting the P&L. So this is also why we recommend it the other way. So a couple of things, awareness is key, right? Awareness is key, awareness is key. A couple of things about this report that you have to be aware of. First of all of the totals, estimate cost, actual cost, estimate revenue, those totals are correct. There is a glitch in this report because it does the math across, whether it is the job here or the total. So you can see on this line, as an example, I have estimated cost, no actual cost, 0% complete, estimated revenue, actual revenue of $14,000, earned revenue of 0, so it's telling me you got to take that $14,000 out of your revenues. All that's correct. However, notice on the total line, what it is showing is it is showing the 50,000 times 67.23, which equals 34. So it's not actually totaling what's above it. It's doing the math across like every other line. So it's just awareness, right? And that's what we're going to show you how to fix, which shouldn't be a problem because when we're posting these totals, right, usually we're posting them by job anyway, so we can look at job profitability reports and it's reflecting our reports effectively. So it shouldn't be an issue, but you know, a lot of people will look at this report and they'll go, oh, 458,000, that's how much of a difference. Let me do a lump sum, pull that out of revenues, push that into WIP. And you can't do that because that total, that 458, right, like 23,000 minus 14,000 is not this number here, right? They don't, the totals don't add up. So you have to do it at the job level, okay? Again, awareness is key. Awareness is key. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how can I go in and use this report to post those differences. So the first thing with this report is that we are going to put in the date of January 31st, because that's the period that I'm looking at closing, 2027, because this is a sample report. Okay, so January 23rd, you have to have a date in there. Don't leave it. If you leave it for all time, you're going to get things that are posted in the future, right, for these differences. You don't want to do it for all time. So January 31st, 2027. Then we're going to drop this into Excel. Now, of course, whenever you drop anything to Excel, a couple things you want to do, make sure that you have it uncheck the space between columns thing, because those spaces are super annoying to get rid of. You only have to do this one time, by the way, as a user. And then the other thing you want to make sure it does not include the QuickBooks export guide, because it just kind of connects it to QuickBooks and it gets annoying. And any of these other things down here, I never check off too, but they're not standard checked. So, okay, go ahead, drop this to Excel. This is where we're going to get through some of the fun things. I show this process manually because some people are just going to go through this manually. My ultimate goal is to get people to not do this manually and to have this automated, right? So that'll take some customization, which of course Fourlane can do, customization on top of QuickBooks to have this process be automated. But I show the manual process as well because not everybody can do automation, not everybody wants to do that. And also not everybody has their workflows worked out where automation is possible. Because if you don't, you know, close the period, as an example, and actually stop posting actual costs and revenues to the previous period, it's a moving target. So we need to make sure it's not a moving target. Okay, so usually when I export anything to Excel, I do like to make a copy of the sheet. So we're doing a lot in Excel today, so you get to a little mini Excel lesson. I renamed the first one original. So if I need to go back to my information, I have that instead of having to re-export it. And then I name this one my working copy. Okay. The other thing that I do frequently in here, so I got rid of the top column already. You guys probably saw me do that as just habit. I also column A here has nothing pertinent in it, right? So I'll just get rid of column A. So I try to narrow down my information. Now notice when you export things out into QuickBooks or into Excel from QuickBooks, you know, you can have this multi-column thing, which can be quite annoying. So when I paste things back into QuickBooks, I want to paste them to the job, right? So I'm going to work you through how I get to the QuickBooks format so that I can copy and paste it into QuickBooks using the batch enter transactions area, okay? And again, the whole purpose of this is because at the end of the day, when I run this report as of January 31st, 2027, and I have all my revenue recognized appropriately, there should be no differences. Differences should be zero. The first thing I do, I name my columns because it makes me, it centers me, I guess, right? The job level 2, job level 1, customer. And the QuickBooks format, I'm sure you guys have seen it in there before, right? So when I go look at my customer list, if I look at it in what's called a hierarchical view, it looks like this. If I look at it in flat view, right, this is what actually, if you're copying and pasting in, this is what you have to do, which is customer colon job level 2. That's what you have to do. Okay. That's the format that we need to get it into, because that's how QuickBooks reads this information. So another thing that I just want to call out just real quick as another little sub piece of information here. So how's new construction 2? Right, this is a job, and I see this dash other, and so what that means is that we have something posted to this job level, and we have something posted to this job level. So how QuickBooks reacts to that is it gives you at the lowest job level both anything for any jobs you have and anything posted to the header job. We don't like others. I do not like using others at all. Right? If you see other in your chart of accounts, in your jobs list, in any of your reports, well, it won't be showing in your chart of accounts. It'll be showing on your P&L, right? It'll be showing on job costing reports. Then we need to make a change. And so generally what we do for people, because you don't want to go in and have to remove all of these transactions across, all you do is you set up a new job, right? And we call it new construction 2. So it's setting up a new one. This has nothing in it, right? I don't know what has been going on with my customer list. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this too, but my insert thinks it kind of messes it around. So I go put this job up. Well, maybe it won't let me because it's messing around. Yeah, I don't know what's happened on my job list. Something in 2022 in my demo files is not acting nice. So the job here, right, is under customer Heather Campbell right now, but instead I'm going to stick that job under this new construction 2, okay? And then I'm also going to stick job 1 under new construction 2. And so what that will end up with, once that corrects itself, is it has that new construction 2, and it has both jobs under it with no other, okay? I don't understand what my poor sample files get so abused, but so that is a fix. Now I don't want to do this fix right now because I already exported it to Excel, right? So I'm going to put it back here, okay, and I'm going to delete this one. Nope, I'm going to edit this one and put it back to just Heather Campbell. Okay, and let's see if I resort this. Will it fix what I'm doing? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of new construction 2 because I didn't have anything there. So that's a quick fix, right? If you see that other, instead of having to go and move all transactions that are posted to the header account, create an alternative header account and make them subs. Okay, in here, so I'm going to do a little if-then statement. Basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get Heather Campbell listed on every line so I can concatenate, right? So that new construction, I can do Heather Campbell colon new construction 3 colon whatever it is. So I'm going to do a if-then statement. So equals if, and you look for the consistencies. If this column is blank, oops, equals blank, right? Just open quote, close quote. Then return for me the row above or the cell above what I'm looking at. If not, return for me this. So it's returning for me Heather Campbell because this is not blank, basically. Now, if I copy this down to this line, it says, if this cell is blank, return this cell. And so it's returning Heather Campbell. So what that does is it lets me copy down all the way down, and look, Heather Campbell's repeated on all the ones that I need her to be. Switches over to Albert Cruz down here. So it just repeats down what I need. Okay, I'm also gonna get rid of the total column on the bottom. I forgot to do that earlier. So now this is the new customers. Again, this is manual process, I know. I'm gonna copy this cell, paste special values, okay. Now we do that to remove, right? It removes the if then statement and just left me with the names, which is what I want. So I'm done with customer, I can delete this. Now I need the job to show up, right? Now, if you only have 1 levels of job, you don't need to go down to level 3 here with the job 1 thing. So if you only have customers and job and that's all that gets spit out, now all I have to do is concatenate these guys. Okay, but I'm showing you with an extra level down just so that you can see it. So I'm going to insert another column. I'm going to say job level 1. Not job 1, it's job level 1, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. Equals if this is blank, then return the cell above. If not, return this. So it fills in for me new construction 3. I can copy that down. Okay. Now notice again, I have this formula in here. I want to get rid of that formula, so I do copy, paste special, and paste in my values. Again, this is all like little Excel things. Okay, delete. Now I'm in here. There's a couple things that we want to do. So first of all, I need that job to be in here because on this one, it has 3 levels. So that has to be left there. I don't have to do an if then because this is the 3rd level, right? I don't have to do anything extra. The one thing I do have to do in here though, is I have to get rid of any that say other, because the other, I don't want it to go there. I want it just to go to construction 2. So we do a filter, and we search for anything that says other, right? And we just empty those cells. You would just empty those cells in here. I can turn my filter off. Okay. Now the other thing is when you do concatenate, right? Which is you're gonna tell it merge these cells together. When you do that, you are going to concatenate everything. And so I need to, at this level, concatenate 3 cells. At all other levels, I only have to concatenate 2, right? So how do you do that? You sort it. Say my data has headers, and sort it by job 2. That way that one gets stuck up at the top. So now my real customer name, the way that QuickBooks likes it, is going to be a concatenate, right? And I'm taking this column B2, adding a colon, no spaces. It's literally just B2 colon. There's no spaces. C2, doing a colon, you put them in parentheses so it shows up as a colon, and then D. Then I have it in the format that QuickBooks actually likes it in. Now, if I carry this down, right, notice that it takes Heather Campbell to put 2 colons in there. If I carry it down further, it does it correctly, but it sticks a colon at the end, and I don't want that, right? So for all the ones that don't have something in job 2, I'm going to get rid of that last little bit and just say B3 colon C3. That's all I want. Copy that down. Okay. So I'm going to copy this column, paste special. I'm going quickly, I know, because the time on this one is just crazy, but values. The values are in there, and then now I actually don't need these 3 columns because it's all there. The other thing to notice about this before I go filter some stuff down is notice that when QuickBooks exports, it puts its math in here. So you need to do the same thing where you copy, paste special values whenever you're going to be copying and pasting into QuickBooks so that it has the values there and not the math, and not the formulas. All right, so I don't need anything that's blank, right? So I start filtering some of this stuff out. I don't need anything that's blank. So I'm sorry, I did sort instead of filter. I'm going to come in here to estimated cost, filter for all the blanks, and get rid of them. That's not data I need. I'm also going to come in here and filter for anything that has total, because I also don't need those. All these that have total, these are all totals. This isn't, and the totals we know is actually not doing the math correctly. Delete all those. And so what that leaves me with, I have an extra line down here. This one is 0, so I'm actually going to get rid of it too. So I could filter for difference of 0 and get rid of that as well. So what that leaves me with is all this difference here. Now, remember this difference column, see this adds up to 517, 520. If I come in here to my report, it adds up to 458.38. That's because it's when it totals, it is totaling the totals, which we know are wrong. Okay. So in here, to make sure that I'm tying out to my report appropriately, what I want to do is I want to total up my actual revenue. 1953320. Is it off? It's off somewhere. I did. Oh, because I just deleted that last column, right? 113. So if I put back in here that 113,200, of course I just, or 113,400. There we go. Here I am getting ahead of myself. I told you I would. So if I total this up, 206,620, right? 206,620. So I know that my stuff ties, even though I got rid of all these other things. Now in this case, when I go in to paste these in, I don't care about this dollar. I don't care about anything else here. I just care about this dollar difference. So I'm going to get rid of all of these things and leave it with the dollar difference. Okay. Now we're going to go into paste from Excel. So this is, again, a feature. I'm just going to have to go over, so I apologize to you guys. This is a feature of QuickBooks Enterprise. If you do not come in, and if you come into company and you don't see accountant in here, like accountant submenu, you need to set yourself up as an external accountant role, right? Your user has to be granted external accountant roles. And then what we have to do is we come into batch enter transactions. Now, my suggestion when we're batch entering transactions, or not, it has to be an invoice, because otherwise it will not show up on our progress report under earned revenue, right, or actual revenue. So it has to be an invoice that we're batch pasting in. I suggest not using your main accounts receivable account, but instead setting up a secondary AR type account called AR WIP. Now, the AR WIP will carry a balance at month end, but it should be cleared at the first of the next month. I'm going to say save and close here. Oh, I have to put an account number. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're posting on the appropriate date, so 1/31/2007. I like to the first time put in here WIP 01 as the number, because then I know, again, it's not my regular invoice numbers. I'm going to take from this Excel spreadsheet and copy and paste in the customer job. I'm going to copy and paste in the amount. Okay. And then we need to set up an item, because invoices have to have items on them. So I'm going to add a new item, use an other charge item, and call it WIP income adjustment, something like that. ADJ. So our account here is going to go against is construction income, right? Because I'm affecting construction income. This is what I'm doing with this. I put in the item there, and then I can copy it down. And I save these transactions. Now, again, you want to make sure that the AR account is AR WIP. That is the best case scenario here. So I save these transactions. Okay. Now, when I come into my job progress over here, notice all of these different things are 0. Now, notice the totals are not, because the totals are doing something funny. But now this means that I have done my job correctly, right? Because my actual revenue and my earned revenue are tying out to each other. All of these are 0. How do we reverse it? So we come in here, and I just do an extra column. What it's doing with the reversal. Right? So negative, whatever's next to it. And then I come into QuickBooks and I do batch enter transactions. I'm going to do it on the next day, February 1st. I'm going to come in and copy the jobs and put in all the customer jobs. I'm going to copy and paste special, so I have the values, not the formulas. Copy this in, paste it into amount, and say save transaction. So it's just doing the reversal on the 1st of the next day. I did something funny, but then you would save these transactions. Oh, I didn't put the item in, that's why. WIP, income adjustment, and then copy this down. Now the last step for this is also in the accounts toolbox, is that we can go in and mass apply those credits to those invoices that we just had set up, right? So I can come in here and say auto apply, auto apply, auto apply all the way down and clear out. Oops, it's on apply. I'm looking in the wrong accounts receivable account. Here we go. So you would do auto apply all the way down for those accounts receivables. Okay. That way it nets out to 0. All right, I'm over in time already, so hopefully that part makes sense. We are going over some other things around paste or batch enter transactions, pasting transactions in a couple weeks when we go through Never Negative. So you'll get another view of that coming up in a couple weeks as well. So that is when we say fix negative inventory, a one-time cleanup. We'll be using that copy and paste in there too. So you'll see some of those extra things there. I know I went super fast today. I hope you guys were able to take away some ideas on how you can use information inside of QuickBooks to get to posting your revenues appropriately for WIP. And next week, we're going to talk about user permissions deep dive. That was a request that came in to push this up, and then you guys can see some of the things that we're talking about in the coming weeks. I will hang out here for a second. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Thanks, everybody.